cancer.
It should be positive.
I look terrible. I feel terrible.
Well, I'm finally to the way I've always wanted to be, and I couldn't be more unhappy. You know, I remember a friend being told not to drink after a meeting.
Never met anybody say, I love everything about myself all the time.
I'm loved.
I'm Angela Skidmore, and I'm a male to female transsexual. I have been transitioned for 16 years. I've constantly battled with weight issues with myself and everything. I've lost 80 pounds. I actually started hormones 17 years ago, and then the year after that is when I actually transitioned into being Angela full-time.
Wow. And so hormones has a lot of side effects, right?
Right. They can have a lot of side effects, but that's why it's important to continue to see a doctor when you're going through it, and the doctors know what you're going through, and have annual mammograms and all the things that you're supposed to have to protect yourself. When I was born, the doctors had told my parents that I was going to be a girl, and so they had actually created my name of Angela Kay. And so when I discovered that I was actually transgendered, and that's what was making me feel that I was different and everything, I decided to go with the wishes of what their name was actually supposed to be for me, because I felt that it was, destined to be.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I didn't know anything about it or any of that. I had always had an attraction towards men, and in preschool and everything, I wanted to dress up in the dresses, and I wanted to be the mom and all that stuff, but just never put two and two together because I'm from a small town in Atchison, and it's not something that was actually in the mainstream back then. People would say that I was gay or something like that at that time, and at that time I had no idea what they were talking about. But then when I got older and I was in high school and my mom died in '91, I came down here and was going to Truman, and I discovered that, I was gay. So, because I liked men and everything, so I thought that was the whole thing. I started doing female impersonation because I've always loved theater and everything. And somebody came up to me while I was performing and everything one day and said, there's something more to this than just the performance aspect or something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I was like, no, it's just an art form. And then it got me questioning, and then I had met some other people who were transgendered, and just started researching it and everything, because I was like, okay, well, I remember all this stuff from my childhood and all this stuff, so this gots to be something here, but I need to make sure that it's right. And so a friend of mine gave me their psychiatrist, and I went through my psychological evaluation and everything, and the doctor actually told me that I was absolutely crazy if I did not go through with this, that I was 100% a woman.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like, whoa.
So there's like a psychological evaluation that you can take.
Right.
Do a lot of transgender people take that?
It's actually supposed to be a requirement.
Oh, okay.
I know that some have not. A lot of people have actually tried to self-medicate and all that stuff, which is not good for a person, because you need the counseling, you need everything, because when you're on the hormones and everything, you're going through all kinds of emotional ups and downs and roller coasters and everything else, with all just the med part of it, but then the physical body growth and stuff like that in the areas that grow, and just different changes and stuff. And it's good to actually go through the medical field to actually do it, although it's very hard sometimes, because sometimes the medical field is not always that great to people who are trans. I haven't really experienced a lot of negative. I have experienced some negative to an extent where people just don't understand, and they try to use their religious beliefs to actually change my way of life, and it's who I am, and I can't change who I am. Would I ask to have been just normal or something? Yeah, that would be great. Not have to go through all this, but I am much more happier in life because I'm able to be my authentic self. It's hard to find people who will accept you 100% for who you are. Mostly the people that are attracted to you are someone who's just wanting to fulfill a fantasy of that female with something extra. And especially if you have not completed surgery. So people don't think that you can be in a relationship usually, and they stereotype you as, oh, well, she's transgendered, so she's only good enough for sex. And so that's why a lot of trans girls end up going into the sex work and stuff like that, is because, you're told so often that you don't matter. When that's not true. We all matter. We have feelings, we have desires of wanting love and wanting to be loved, and fortunately I have actually found that now.
Yeah.
My name's Adrienne Showalter Matlock, and I responded to the call for interviews because I made a New Year's resolution last year to try to find more ways to share about my experiences of having a colostomy. In 2010, I was about to turn 26, and I was diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer. For me, and I think for a lot of people who have colon cancer or rectal cancer, what wound up being much more defining and traumatic in a sense was the surgery that I had to do as part of my cancer treatment. And the tumor was on the inside of my rectum, but on the side that's touching up against my vagina. So because of how big it had grown and how it was growing through the wall, they had to do a really extensive surgery. So part of my surgery was getting a permanent colostomy. Basically, a colostomy, for anybody who doesn't know, is if you are not able to poop normally or poop in the toilet or whatever, then they actually reroute your colon so that it's coming out of your abdomen. And you don't really have any control over it for the most part. And obviously, it's very strange to go from, you learn as a very small child, how to control when you are going to the bathroom, and you learn that your body gets used to working in a certain way, and then it's just a huge adjustment. Other kind of main component of my surgery was that they had to remove, they used a long strip of skin and fat and muscle from my abdomen to actually reconstruct the part of, they had to remove my rectum and my anus. They had to remove the side of my vagina, vaginal canal that was touching the tumor. And so they used that, hi Oki, they used that skin and muscle to actually rebuild where my anus used to be and part of my vaginal canal. So now my vaginal canal is partly, original materials and partly tummy skin material, basically. Going through this process I dealt a lot with depression, especially during that year. So there's, of course, a lot of weight in that experience of kind of, dealing with your own possible mortality and wondering, am I gonna die? What does the future hold? In a way, I was almost more depressed and upset that I was having to not do all the things that I found my worth in, because I had to do cancer treatment. For me, part of my journey through that was coming to accept, that I'm loved, that God loves me, even if I'm not doing things, even if I'm not being productive and accomplishing things. Yeah, I had this huge scar coming all the way down from here to here, and they said you need to the best way to get the scar tissue to heal and to go away is to massage the scar, right? But for several months after my surgery, I could not bring myself to do that because it was my own body was grossing me out. In the midst of reading from other people's experiences and going through my own journey, part of what I sought to understand and to kind of aim for, I guess, is owning my own body and my own experiences. To me, it seems a lot healthier and just accurate to know that who we are includes these bodies that are us. It's not that it's me and my body, but that it's just me. And so just coming to terms with that, just because there's some part of my body that I am not in complete control over doesn't mean that it's separate from me, but coming to just accept that there's things in my life and in my own body that I don't get a complete say over, that's okay. I've also come to accept that it's okay to require medical equipment for my body to function, in a sense that before, I think in part just not really being around many people with physical disabilities in my life, or growing up or things like that. It was something that was so very unfamiliar to me and would even make me uncomfortable, or as a kid maybe visiting somebody in the hospital, or just any sort of thing where there was medical equipment involved with someone's body was something in and of itself that used to make me very uncomfortable. But I am very much more okay with it now, in that I rely on this technology that has been created to be able to live a life very similar to how I was living before I had a colostomy. It's made me very grateful, and also helped me to, I hope, be more understanding and grateful for other people who are relying on medical equipment of all sorts of varieties in order to survive, and to see those as the gifts and blessings that they are, as opposed to something that's different and unfamiliar and therefore, negative.
I'm Taylor Stout. I'm a student at KU. I've been dealing with body image issues since I was about 5. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder when I was 13, but as of today, I'm about 2.5 years without symptoms. I was always taller than the other kids in my grade, and I don't know what caused the link, but I always linked big with bad, and that stuck with me for a long time. I was always active, but I was always slow, so I thought, okay, well maybe if I get smaller, I'll be faster, but it ended up I didn't have enough energy, so I was still slow, and I didn't know what was wrong. My sister and I are really close in age as well, and I grew a lot faster than she did, and I'm younger, so that was another link between big and bad. But I think my childhood, my parents did a really good job teaching us that our bodies are good and things like that, so it wasn't anything that was in the house. I think a lot of it was the other kids at school. There weren't any direct comments, but there were like little things here and there that were said, or the way that it was said, that made me feel shamed about my body. I also, with the media and watching television and things like that, like even cartoon characters, they didn't look like me. So I was like, okay, well, if I can't even look like a cartoon character, or I can't look like whoever on Disney Channel, there must be something wrong with my body. There must be something wrong with me. Even though I was so young, I was like a sponge. So all of those messages hit, and I just soaked it all up. Going into high school, I was transferring to a different high school than what I should have gone to, what I was fed into. There was a program that I wanted to be in, so I transferred to the other school. And I was like, well, I can reinvent myself this summer. It'll be great. And during junior high health class, they kind of taught you how to have an eating disorder. Instead of like teaching you about eating disorders, it was like, this is what they do. They count calories, they over-exercise, they do this, this, and this. And there's a big difference between raising awareness and kind of giving the blueprint of like, this is how you do it. And so I really latched onto that, and I started eating less and less and working out more and more, to the point of it was very out of character. I always hated running, still hate running. But I would get up super early before my mom would realize, and I would go on runs, and it was not healthy. My energy was low, I was irritable a lot, like my whole person changed.
Yeah.
In my family, there's a lot of addictive tendencies, and so through therapy, I learned that kind of with my brain chemistry and with the tendencies that run in the family, it could have been eating disorder. It could have been I would start to depend on drugs or alcohol or sex or something like that. But I thought that my body was something that I can control, and that's kind of where the addictive tendency went. Once I had to go to the hospital because my heart rate was 32, and the normal resting heart rate is about 60.
Yeah.
So they rushed me to the hospital, but right before that was when I started to get a lot of comments about, wow, like, you're not looking so good, like, is everything okay? I didn't talk about it to a lot of people because at that point, I didn't really think that anything was wrong. I was like, oh, I'm just taking control of myself. I'm doing what I always wanted to do. I'm looking how I always wanted to look. But even now, looking back at pictures, I'm like, that's not how I ever wanted to look. I don't look happy. I don't have a brightness to me. Instead, I just look really sad and kind of gray almost. Life has changed so dramatically, especially in the past year. It's become more not about like how my body looks, but how I feel in my body. So I eat when I'm hungry, I stop when I'm full. When before I was so rigid on things. And I focus more on what my body can do, and that's really shifted because I used to think like, oh, do I look okay in my tennis skirt? Like, does this shirt make me look boxed? Things like that. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can run up these stairs because my legs are strong. I work at a church in the nursery, and I can be like, oh, like, I can hold these babies. And my arms, like, that's what they're meant to do, to hold things, to lift things up. And I shouldn't be worried about, like, the fat on my arms. Like, I've tried to disconnect how I look and really tune into how my body feels. And I've noticed that when my family or friends will say something negative about their body, I'm like, we're not going to talk about it like that. Like, your body is worth so much more than you're giving it credit for. Like, let's kind of switch this tone around. And I think my experiences have not only helped myself, but my family and my friends. I think everybody. No, but I've never met anybody say, I love everything about myself all the time.
Right.
And I think the most people that I've seen be positive about their body are people that are like, they've had some sort of revelation in their life, and they're like, my body's worth so much more than just the way it looks.
Yeah.
And the people that don't have the diagnosis, or that like are still struggling with disordered thoughts or disordered eating, or even just negative body image, just like, not just love your body, but like appreciate your body.
Yeah.
Feel strong in your body. Find something every morning that you like about your body, write it on the mirror, and focus on that for today. Keep it up. Next morning, write something else. Like, constantly give yourself compliments about not just your body, but your being. Like, focus on your being more than your body.
My name is Nicole. I'm 32. I'm a lesbian. I'm married. I have many cats. Well, it happened when I was really young, probably about I think when I was 8. It was like the last time I was like a normal-sized child that didn't have an eating issue. And over summer, I guess I put on weight, and I don't really remember the summer at all, but when I got back to school, a boy called me fat, and I couldn't really understand what that meant, and that it applied to my body. It was kind of weird and strange. It didn't really hit me. And then as I grew into middle school, it just got worse. And, my mom tried to help me in the best way possible by, enrolling me in Weight Watchers in 6th grade and trying to have like incentives for losing weight. And I tried, and I might lose maybe 10 pounds, but I had a problem, and it wasn't going to be fixed that easily. So, the people, I remember feeling kind of like I felt at church, like in church youth group, and that was alone, which maybe has to do with also, kind of being a lesbian, not knowing that's what it was, but knowing that there was something that I was different about me, and feeling like people picked up on it without me saying or doing anything. Well, I didn't, in high school, perhaps I maintained a little better. And then in my early 20s, I got pretty heavy. I would say I was probably about 25 pounds heavier than I am now, give or take, on a 5'2.5" body frame. It's just, I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
And what happened, my relationship ended, and I just, within 3 months, was down to 30 pounds down. Lost weight very quickly. Wasn't eating. I'd also picked up an old habit I developed in high school, which was bulimia. So I wasn't eating very much. I was throwing it up, whatever I did eat, and it was just a vicious cycle. I started losing my hair, became anemic, had some stains on my teeth at the time. Confidence was terrible, and so I went all the way down to 120 pounds. And remember putting on Facebook, well, I'm finally to the weight I've always wanted to be, and I couldn't be more unhappy. So, yeah. But I ended up going into a hospital for a little bit for other issues, but I addressed my bulimia there, and, they acknowledged I had it. So I've never had like a diagnosis necessarily, but I think it's safe to say I'm a recovering bulimic, so.
Right.
I didn't come out until I was 20. I was kind of forced out. My family actually figured it out before I did. I'd been kicked out and was faced with actually figuring it out for myself, and I discovered it, that I was gay. I mean, I always knew that, but you don't. I never knew a gay person. I had no lesbian role models. I like no lesbian friends. So it was hard to call myself that since I'd never seen it before. Oh yeah, well, it's been a long road. 6 years of estrangement, and we've since reconciled the past 5 years. So we're great. My mom's one of my best friends. I love my dad. It's almost like that time didn't happen. First of all, like I said, I'm not the most feminine person in the world. So on top of having body issues, my mom wanted me to be feminine. So being forced in that feminine role was confusing. It wasn't natural for me. And then having the inclination to be around women, not really wanting a boyfriend for myself, but more wanting one to confirm that I'm an attractive person. So that was confusing, and it did create a greater struggle with dealing with my sexuality. But I haven't had an incident. Actually, meeting my wife I was still, within the first year of our relationship, I was still struggling with that and wasn't being too honest with her at the time. And then, I don't know what happened. I think I just gained confidence in having a loving, comfortable relationship that actually was healthy for me. Mm-hmm. So, a month went by and I acknowledged I haven't thrown up something I've eaten in a month. Wow. And then it became a couple of years, and I maybe had a few times between the last 3 years that I've done it, but I just, no looking back. It's not worth it. Growing my hair back, it's so humiliating and defeminizing, as if I'm not feminine anyways.
Right.
But to not have hair on the back of my head was just a little too much for me to handle, so it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Made it worse. So the first relationship, I got down to 120 pounds. Second relationship, I went back up to 165 pounds.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. And I really enjoyed that second relationship. I was being encouraged to eat. I was being encouraged to gain weight. Like, they liked that I was curvy. Mm-hmm. And so I felt that was giving me permission to do whatever I wanted to do. And it became another unhealthy habit, leading to more depression and a terrible relationship. And once I was out of that, I lost weight again. And I've pretty much been maintaining where I'm at for like the last 2 years. So that is the most steady I've been.
Awesome.
So
yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm not where I want to be with my weight, and I don't know how many times I've told Beth, next week I'm working out every day and I'm doing the diet, and then I don't do it. But I'm also afraid. I'm afraid of falling into patterns that led up to not eating, throwing up, losing my hair, being obsessed with running, chain smoking cigarettes, which I was also a smoker for a while. I was, a bulimic, just terrible stuff. So I'm a little afraid to even try to, be conscious of my weight. So I'm just trying to be. I'm just letting it go, eat what I want, and hope that it will just maintain itself. But I know that there could be a day where I look in the mirror and I'm absolutely horrified. I'm dreading that day, and I hope it doesn't come. But in the meantime, I'm trying not to let it be in my every thought. I feel free from my own mind. I feel free from judgment, because I don't have judgmental people in my life anymore. I'm relieved. I feel supported. I feel loved. I found my soulmate.
Throughout all of my life, there was this idea that I was going to do everything I needed to do to be perfect. I was going to get good grades, and I was going to do all these activities, and I was going to look a certain way, and this was what made you lovable and made you a worthwhile human being that people could stand to be around. In 2012, I was sexually assaulted, and it blindsided me because, I definitely felt like I was always really in charge of my sexuality and in charge of affirmative consent, and I certainly don't think that there's some magic way to prevent sexual assault. But the thing about my assault that surprised me was had these alarm bells going off in my head, like really early on in the date. Like a vibe was wrong in a way that like felt really wrong, like really early on. And it was the first date. And I don't know why I overrode that, because I always thought like, oh, you know, I'm such an empowered woman, like I have done all this like training in women's studies, I'm involved in that world. What I did was I silenced that voice inside me, and like specifically the line I said to it multiple times during the date, because we were in public in various venues, was don't make a scene. One of the things that kind of gave me comfort, I guess, was binge eating. So everything just felt like pain. It was pain, 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 pain. And if I went and got a whole bunch of things at the corner store and ate like 2 bags of chips and a pint of ice cream, then I just didn't really feel anything. I felt kind of numb. And that was like a super comforting thing. At first it was like awful. It was like the worst had happened. The worst had happened. I had lost control of my body. I had lost control of my career because I hadn't gotten that job right after law school. Also because like my focus had gone in other directions after I was assaulted and like trying to deal with the depression. I was doing some compulsive spending also to kind of like try to get that little hit of happiness. So I'd ruined, like I lost control of my perfect finances, my perfect credit score, all of that. After a while, I kind of realized like, okay, like after months of going out looking, you know, this way I didn't think that I could or should look, what's happened? Like nothing's happened. Like the sky is not falling. People are not running in terror from me in the streets. I still have pretty much all the friends I had before. I still am making new friends. I'm still dating people. People still find me attractive. And so I feel like after everything I felt like I'd lost, everything I'd lost control of, like what I gained in the end was freedom.
Wow.
I use the term fat, and to me it's a term of pride and acceptance and reclaiming and destigmatizing. Mm-hmm. But for some people, like that word is not reclaimable, right? Like for some queer people, queer is too painful. Like it hurts that the movement says it, and it hurts too much for them to say it, you know? And I feel like a lot of people feel that way about fat. And it also kind of, to me, is like an activist word. This discomfort with it makes it more stigmatized. Like it's the worst thing you could be. Like to refuse to say someone is fat is to like reinforce the idea that fat is an insult, that fat is like literally the worst thing you could be. Like I've had people insult me and be like, fat bitch, like you're fat. And I'm like, yeah, you have brown eyes, your hair is blonde. And they're like, what? And I'm like, are we just yelling things that everyone knows? Like, what are we doing? Like, that's not an insult. I'll take plus size. I don't hate if somebody wants to call me thick or to call me curvy. I'm not as big a fan of, so to me plus size works because like, I used to work in retail clothing, and it's just a descriptive word. Mm-hmm. Do you want plus size clothes or do you want straight size clothes? But I will not let customers say, I want normal size clothes. Right. Well, they're all normal size clothes. Do you want plus size clothes or do you want straight size clothes? Mm-hmm. Not too long after I got fat, I was just sort of like hearing about this like health at every size, fat acceptance, body positivity, fat positivity, and I was like, okay, like what is this? Like I'm gonna Google it, and I sort of like I have an undergrad degree in women's studies, and I've definitely been involved in like political activism on other fronts. So I was like, well, okay, like I have an inkling that this is there's some social justice flavor to this fat thing, but like, what is that? And I feel really grateful. Like, I think potentially it's one of the more accessible social justice like realms to get into just by yourself. Girl Scouts of America published this little article recently that it said, so your daughter called herself fat. And so instead of like jumping to our default response, which is to be like, fat, terrible, is to be like, so, you know, what makes you say that? Or like, so how do you feel about that is my better response, right? And if someone's like, oh, you know, I feel really ugly today, you know, whatever, there's a hashtag that's like, fat is not a feeling. You don't feel fat. That's not a feeling. You feel sad, or you feel unlovable, you feel unattractive. Fat is not a synonym for those things. That, again, just like reinforces that fat is negative. And so I think the question of like, how do you feel about that, both allows you to break down that structure that like to be fat is to be ugly and unlovable, and the threat of getting fat is like this thing you must avoid at all costs, and also to be there for your friend who's like in real pain, but to like dig a little deeper to like, why are they feeling this pain?
Over the past couple years, I've lost 90 to 100 pounds. I kind of didn't count at the beginning, where how just how high my weight had gotten. You know, it really wasn't a big turning point for me. It was just kind of just a slow realization. It really kind of struck me as I was coming back from lunch one day, and I worked on the third story, so we go up 2 flights of stairs, and hey, I'm horribly winded.
Yeah.
Like, it's real hard to breathe right now. And I knew I was walking like 3 miles a day, so really, I found it very disturbing that I couldn't walk up 2 flights of stairs even with that much activity. So the journey started with diet, not any hardcore diet, not like I'm cutting everything out, whatever. It was just, I need to start eating, I need to start cooking at home, I need to start eating less in general, not anything giant, just, you know, don't eat the whole pizza, because I would eat a whole pizza. Large pizza by myself, that's fine, I would just do it. It's easy to get very discouraged every time you hit a plateau. I've hit a lot of plateaus over the last couple of years. I've been around my current weight right now, which is about 189, 188. I've been around there for 2 months. And I'm more active now than I was 3 months ago. So a piece of me wants to be discouraged by,
Right.
you know, I'm still at 188, but then 188 is actually a healthy weight for my height. Honestly, I'm not positive about my body ever.
Yes.
It's a constant struggle. It's been this like constant changing of why I'm not positive about it. It started out as a very common problem where, you know, you're overweight and you look at yourself and you know, like, I look terrible, I feel terrible, everything about this is terrible, and now I feel bad. It's a very common problem, and it's sad and terrible that it's common. And then over time, as I lost weight, you know, our perception is as you lose weight, you're going to get more positive.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is I would find other things to nitpick and worry about. It never stops. It never stopped. It still doesn't stop. And now it's turned into this weird thing where it's not even about like the weight. I joke with my girlfriend sometimes because I still have a very self-deprecating humor about my body. I've had that for 20-some years, you know. That hasn't gone away, probably never go away. I'll make a joke. It's like, oh, look at my fat rolls, and I grab it, and there's this realization that that's not fat, that's skin. That's just loose skin because I've lost that much fat.
Yeah.
But then you freak out because, oh my God, what does this loose skin mean? Am I, some sites will say that all that loose skin is more likely to have cancer, so now I have to worry about skin cancer, and that's not really proven anywhere, it's just anecdotal, but, so that becomes a weird thing. Or I'll make a joke, it's like, I'll be happy when I get rid of my love handles, and I go to grab my love handles, and I grab hip.
Yeah.
And then I freak out, because the first time I did that, I had never felt my hip.
Yeah.
And I had this moment that I have since realized is body dysmorphia. I didn't realize that was my body. Every day is a struggle. Every day I look in the mirror and it's the first things that pop into my head are all negative. And then I try and say, I try and stop myself because there's no stopping that immediate initial, prattle off the 6 horrible negative things I say every morning without fail. I haven't gotten rid of that, but then I can realize that I'm saying this and say, no, this isn't true. Very actively think that this is not true. This is, you are not that person. And you never really were. I think that's the other thing I try and get into myself is that even when I was much larger, that there was nothing wrong with that. Some of the small things that are helping me move on with these things is, we have a lot of very good friends who are very positive. And having them give a lot of positive feedback and learning to accept that. Yeah. Because my gut is still, if someone says, John, you look great today, is to immediately say something deprecating.
Yeah.
I guess I look okay today. Might be the best thing I'll say. No.
Why?
Because it's so mean. I could never be that mean to somebody.
Yeah.
I really couldn't.
Yeah.
And yet we can always be so mean to ourselves. My journey to get in better shape physically for my own health and for lots of reasons. My path for body positivity is one small step at a time. And accepting that sometimes it's going to be a bad day, sometimes the run is going to be slow, sometimes I may not be able to stop myself from saying those terrible things about myself. Some days I might not be able to take a compliment, but other days I might be able to run a half marathon and break my best, and I might have my girlfriend tell me that she thinks I'm hot, and me actually be like, yes, I believe her. Yeah, I believe you in this, in this second.
I'm Jennifer McCartney. I'm a lesbian single mom here in Kansas City. I'm a retired pro boxer, and I struggled with a lot of weight issues my whole life. I was the kid in school that had asthma, a little chunky, and was the manager of our basketball team, the manager of the volleyball team. And I loved sports. I just loved it, but I wasn't good. I couldn't do it, and I was so out of shape. And I'm from a single parent home, so, I didn't have a lot of the extras that a lot of the kids had. But anyways, so when I got out of high school, I just happened to have some friends that played rugby for the Jazz, and I loved it. Went into all their things, and finally their trainer was like, "You're coming all the time, why don't you play?" And I told her, I said, well, I've loved sports, but I've never really been a part of it because, I didn't save my weight to her, but my asthma and other stuff. And she just decided to take me under her wing, and within 3 months, I threw my inhaler away. Wow. I had lost some weight. I was feeling really good about myself. Scout for the WIBF had been at our huge Heart of America tournament. And it's weird how it happened, because we all went to some women's boxing matches, the first ones we had ever had in Kansas City. And he was actually standing by us, and I guess I was getting so excited. And he was like, is this something you'd want to do? And I was like, yeah, right. And then he had me come to a gym, and he put me through some workouts and train, and I guess I didn't hit like a girl. And I didn't even know that. So they signed me like immediately. It was really surreal. So
Wow.
yeah, the geeky chubby kid became a pro boxer. I moved to California, and boy, you had to face weight issues and judgment from, because you're dealing with the limelight now and people in the show business and other professional athletes, and it's hard. The more that they want you to fight and be like a guy and be tough and stuff, but they really wanted you to look like really girly. So I kind of had to crawl out of my own comfort zone to do that, you know?
Yeah.
I had a contract. It wasn't like, you know, you're a league, a community league, you know, I was a pro and I had to do it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So there's an ignorance, you know, that that's always going to be there in the sports world. I have to say that. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get paid like the guys did. You know, we definitely didn't get treated with the respect that the guys did for a while. I had to prove it. I was the only female in my gym in California, and they didn't even want to train me. It was hard to even get anyone to spar with me. You know, I had to spar with guys, and it was a big joke. I mean, you could tell, you could feel it, you know, they're like, haha, and then they'd make fun of whatever guy stepped in. So one day, and I'm very laid back, it really takes a lot to get me mad.
Yeah.
And one day I had enough. And they were smirking and snickering, and then the guy that was in the ring with me was not taking me seriously. And that pissed me off. And so just one straight right to his stomach, and it dropped him to his knees, and he could not get back up. He could not recover in time, and the look on all the guys' faces. But after that day, I became their little sister. Our happiness is being threatened every day, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous. We all bleed the same. We all have the same organs. You know, some of the administration, you know, they've been very vocal on what a woman is, you know, and how you're supposed to look and stuff as a woman. And that's why all the women are so pissed off right now, you know? We have to continue doing what we've done since Stonewall, and that is hand in hand and never give up. And keep moving forward. Yeah, we've done it. We broke through so many barriers. Look where we came before this administration. Look how far we've come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, and it's up to us to keep that drive going forward. Yeah, I am. I think every human, we all are gonna be harder on ourselves than other people, but now I don't care. I really don't care. There's so much hate and judgment and everything going on right now. If we took everything personally, it would, you know, our life would be depressed. And if we haven't learned by now that beauty is truly from the inside, then we got a lot to work on. I think body image is definitely a lot better than it was. You know, we've got a lot of plus size models out there. One of my icons, people that I really like and admire, is Rosie O'Donnell. You know, she's a lot for a lot of people to handle, but that's why I like her, because she's transparent. I mean, that's what she is, and she speaks her mind. And she struggled with body issues. But I think she's fabulous, and she's beautiful. I think that's really what we need to change, is the word beautiful and what it really means.
Yeah.
So right now, I think we're getting better. I'm better. I'm comfortable with myself. I'm happy with myself. I have days like everybody else, you know, but pretty much. And I think that if we keep encouraging other women, God, our possibilities are endless.
Being gay, I grew up in a religious family, so being gay wasn't a cool thing. So we'd sneak out books out of the library, and all you saw were like perfectly fit dudes pick up a fashion magazine as a kid, all you see are perfectly fit people. And my family loved junk food. I mean, food was therapy in my family. So we didn't know what healthy eating was at all. And my parents always like made you feel better with food. And when I would start to see those pictures and I would look in the mirror, you'd start to see those like, it's not the same. You know, and I think the world is like that. You look at a fashion magazine and you go, oh, I don't look like that. And we constantly, you know, anybody, you know, my trans friends, the same way they look in a magazine, they don't see representation of themselves.
Right.
I was probably 16 or so. When I finally came out, then I was like, I stopped using food as comfort. But then I kind of went in the opposite direction. I stopped eating, or I'd eat rice cakes. Or I'd eat, you know, I read every diet. I remember having those, like ephedra pills, and you're gonna take them and think it's gonna magically make you feel better. You know, it might make you skinnier, but it's not gonna make you feel better.
Right.
And it continued on through years of people telling you you're not good enough, or you're the fat vegetarian, or you're skinny fat, or I remember a drag queen telling me I had love handles, you know, and I'm just going, you know, now at 30 years old, that seems so stupid. But as a young person, you're just like, And it got so bad at like 18, 19, I started doing hair, and I think I got into the beauty industry so I could make other people feel beautiful, so I would feel beautiful, which never worked. No amount of makeup, no hair color, nothing made you feel better about yourself. It escalated to the point in my 20s of just, you know, doing drugs and doing stupid shit just to try to fit in and try to like make yourself feel better. And it really didn't hit me until last year when I tested positive for HIV. Until about 6 months into it, in January of this year, that I woke up one day and I was like, this is fucking stupid. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm letting other people go, okay, this is how you should value yourself. It's stupid. And it really started meeting the trans friends I spend a lot of time around, and the folks I help at the center, that, you know, they're going through these huge transformations, and they're, you know, taking ownership of who they are, and I had to do that myself. And so in January, I decided that I was going to, you know, I wasn't going to be skinny. I wasn't going to try to be skinny. It didn't make me happy. I was just going to feel better. So I started working out every morning until the point that it was like, oh, okay, well, this feels better. And there was one day, I remember in March, that I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, yeah, I like you. And I think cutting out toxic people, food, drugs, those things, I think, you know, definitely helped. I post a lot of pictures on social media of me without my shirt on, which this is the first year in my life that I've ever gone to a pool and taken my shirt off. I think it's very pertinent, very prominent in the gay community that we're constantly acting this like, this is what we should look like. And I definitely think, I mean, I've been out for 15 years, so definitely that's been ingrained the entire time of, I think you get that kind of like coaching through your, you know, coming out process of this is what you're supposed to do, and this is how you're supposed to act, and this is what you're supposed to, and now that's the good thing about being in the center now is that when we have new kids come out, I'm like, screw those people. Don't listen to them. Mm-hmm. When I found out last year, I was regularly tested. I've always participated in like Kate's Walk, and I've always been aware. I've always had a lot of positive friends. And then last year, when it did happen to me, I was in a relationship that was not the healthiest. And that kind of, I looked for support in my friends, who most of them disappeared. And now I look at it as like, good. And I don't want you around. I don't want those people around me. Because I realized that they fed into all that, like that constant, like, not thinking you're good enough. You know, when you're surrounded by people who are constantly feeding into that, you just constantly believe it. So, and then there's the stigma that comes with being HIV positive of, that you're dirty or that you're a slut or that, you're a deviant. People have this like ingrained image in their head of dying AIDS victims. Even though it's treatable, it definitely had its moments for me. Going out, there were whispers and people talking, and I remember a friend being told not to drink after me. It really took me till November, and Carrie Fisher had just passed, and I was sitting there watching her thing, her documentary, and she was talking about how if you tell the whole world something, it no longer has any power over you. You own it. So I decided I was going to make a long Facebook post and tell everyone, just get it over with. And I thought this is either going to be really bad or it's going to be really good. Well, it turned out to be good, thank God. To the point that people have come up to me in the bar and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you talk about this so openly, which has led me to talking to people all over the world. I talk to people every week from different corners of the world about who are newly diagnosed and who feel alone. Because as much as you have people around you, you probably still feel a little alone. And I've found that the more I tell the truth, the more I, tell my story, the more that I live my honest life, and even though it's in front of the world at this point of how much social media, the attention that I get, I think, the more that I do that, the more I walk confidently into the world and go, what you think of me really doesn't matter. I absolutely do. I think when I'm talking to young people who are either positive or anyone who contacts me through social media, I always tell them, listen, it changed my life in the best ways. It got rid of all the things that didn't really matter. It got rid of all the, it got rid of people that didn't matter. And it left only real things.
It's a wonder how I ever got by. I could never wipe a tear from my eye. I would lie awake in fear of my mind. I was walking towards the edge, it was all a lie. I thought I would be the one who fought it. I thought I would be the one who solved it. I could never feel a thing, I wore it. Like a sign of my own pride, I'd extolled it. If I could, I'd ask to let it all go. If I only learned to let it all show, I would dedicate 1,000 years more. In the quiet, I would see what I'm really for. I thought I had all the answers in hand.